Hey everyone, my name is Andrew Davis and you are watching Conversations in Pop Culture, brought to you by my sponsor, Mixum Printing, the smarter way to print. I know printing your creative project can be confusing and stressful, but Mixum is here to make it easy. From their instant quote calculator that lets you get as many quotes as you want for free to their 24-hour customer service support, Mixum is here to make sure your printing experience runs smoothly from start to finish. And right now you can choose from a range of premium printing options and materials. And the company has also printed many successful Kickstarter campaigns, and a bunch of them you have even heard about on this very show. And they offer services in the United States, Canada, Australia, and the UK, and Mixum can print and reach your audience anywhere in the world. So if you're ready to print smarter, not harder, head over to Mixum.com. And right now they're running a promotion where listeners of my show can drop my name, Andrew Davis, in the message tab of a current order to get a 5% discount on their first order. So that's Mixam.com. Again, type my name, Andrew Davis, in the message tab of your current order to receive a 5% discount on your first order. And also make sure that if you know your book is funded, you might want to place your printing orders earlier rather than later because we are in a printing shortage. I'm just giving everybody the heads up. And so I have with me returning guest, comic creator and writer, L.K Ingino. So welcome back to the show.
Hey Andrew, how's it going?
I am okay. Everybody knows what's going on in my life, so we don't need to rehash it. That was last night. Apparently, for those who missed that episode of just me hanging out, comic book wise, I am figuring out my Kickstarter because I got declined. So we're gonna get the elephant out of the room, but we're talking about your Kickstarter, which did not get declined, and it's actually up, which is Fangs and Foul play. And I think you're a little over a third funded at this point.
I am, last I checked earlier, I'm a little shy of half.
So I stand corrected because I didn't check today. I've been running around a little bit, been busy, but
Right.
obviously you're sort of halfway done funding and around that number. And I think you have, what, 20 to 19 days left, I want to say?
Yeah. Ends on the 30th, which will be interesting being away for the Thanksgiving holiday right before it ends, but...
Yeah, we're going to talk about that because obviously this is the problem I wanted to avoid tremendously. But before we get into that, what is the basic premise of your comic for those who haven't heard about it and obviously are going to see this either live or on replay?
Yeah, so Fangs and Foul play is about a telepathic vampiric cat in a Victorian town, and all he wants to do is eat. Meanwhile, a conflicted ex-colonel, Richard, he just wants
Probably
to do
not
right
a fan
thing.
of this character.
You're not a fan of...
This character, Van Helsing?
Oh, yeah, probably not so much. And Richard's a colonel, well, he's an ex-colonel now. He deserted the war because he wants to get away from having to do horrible things. And then he's thrown in with Fang, who immediately enthralls him and making him do more horrible things.
So to even talk about that, where did this idea come from? Because obviously, aside of my joke of Van Helsing, vampire stories have been always around. Earlier this week, I think it was Bram Stoker's birthday on Monday. And so obviously vampire stories have always been around. There's always been twists on them. And so what is the entire idea for how all this came about? Because it is super interesting when you're diving into these types of stories and then you add the twist to it.
So I have lots of cats. So doing something with a cat, made some semblance of sense. And I was awake one night at like 2-ish, trying to sleep. And I just had this picture of this cat with like the blood all over him. And Richard was originally going to be like a butler, like a Alfred kind of character, but that just like seemed way too boring. So I was like, no, we're gonna change that. But yeah, it just kind of sat in my head for a little while. This picture of this cat who was a vampire, and this guy who had to serve him in some way. And it took a couple months before I started going into, okay, what's the actual story that's going on here rather than just this one picture, because we can't do much. I mean, we could do a cool thing with that picture, but that doesn't help us so much of the story, anything fleshed out. So that's kind
Yeah.
of the origin of Fang. And I needed some way for him to communicate with Richard that wasn't just, meows that like Richard's interpreting. So that's how him being telepathic came about, making that bridge a little easier.
Yeah, and obviously for those who are sort of just turning in, apparently, I'm having some issues with Facebook and the connection. We're still live on YouTube. I don't think StreamYard is behaving and connecting totally with Facebook. So obviously, if you missed the first 5 minutes, you could check it out on YouTube. And I will also be putting this in the video section on my page, the next day or two. But full still streaming on YouTube, so please check it out on YouTube. Obviously, I don't know why my internet's misbehaving, or StreamYard, or Facebook's misbehaving. But even to go further into this story, it did it last night too. So it's not happy. It's probably not happy with my sponsor. Is the only thing I could think of.
Maybe it's because we're not calling it meta.
That could be it too. That could be it too. Clearly, Facebook has feelings too. Clearly, or Meta has feelings too. We could go with. YouTube doesn't care. YouTube wants me to make money. YouTube's a fan of Mix'em guys. Clearly, this is an endorsement right now. But even to talk about the story, what is this like to really create Richard? Because obviously, he is a very fascinating character because he can't take the war anymore. He doesn't want to go back. And anything, I would imagine, is better than him killing a bunch of people, being responsible, his conscience, and then obviously, he sort of gets thrown into another hell, for lack of a better word.
Mm-hmm.
And so what was that like, really creating him and really creating these circumstances? And we're going to dive further into him, but slowly introducing.
Initially I had a little bit of trouble getting into his head. I don't read a lot of like war stuff, and that's something like it's kind of a I don't know if it's really a genre of book, because you have like sci-fi, war stuff and fantasy stuff with wars, and of course, modern. So army stuff isn't necessarily, I think it's kind of like a sub theme of other books, but it's not something that I'm into that much. So I had to do like just a little bit of research to figure out what his rank was. So I did a little bit of research to finally figure that out. Luckily, we don't actually have to go into the war too much, so that works in creating him. But I knew like I wanted him to be somebody who's really conflicted. He's done some stuff. I know what he's done, but nobody else knows what he's done just yet, and why he's been fleeing from this war, what it is he's trying to get away from. So he has this sense of justice, and initially he did think that he was all for this war, not necessarily for killing people, but thought it was a good cause, and then things happened that make him think this isn't really a good cause anymore. So he's on the run. So now that he has to kind of do the same thing again, he has to kill for, in this case, Fang. He's looking, since he hasn't figured out a way to get out of it yet, he's looking for a way to only basically sacrifice anybody who's kind of a horrible person already, as much as possible.
And to even talk about that, because it's very interesting that obviously Fang has some control over Richard, but Richard also can choose who to kill, how to kill them, what are, some judgment calls and certain things. So Richard still has some control. And also Richard is still relatively, the same, minus that at some point he's going to have to, do what Fang wants. And what is that like? Because, it really creates a very interesting relationship between Richard and Fang, because Fang is, I don't want to say Fang is like codependent on Richard, but definitely it's beneficial because Fang survived, eating rats when nobody was around, things like that. But obviously that can only last so long. And it's a very interesting relationship between the two of them, and I don't know what we call, because it's not like, it's not a beneficial and it's not a mutual, both parties.
Parasitic, kind of. I don't think it's beneficial for Richard at all. I mean, Richard gets to stay in the house, but if Fang wasn't there, he could just stay in the house anyways without Fang. He doesn't need Fang to live there. So it's kind of parasitic, I guess.
And then it gets even more interesting in a lot of ways, because obviously I read the first issue, guys.
Right.
For those who haven't picked it up yet, it's a very interesting book. And well, you know, he's in a town, and some of these people in the town are not the greatest people. They're telling very, you know, not nice stories. You know, very predatory lending is a good way to put it. And that also creates a very interesting circumstance, because we're finding out that some of these people are not good people. And I don't want to say something that's horrific, but it's the idea that maybe the world wouldn't miss some of these people if they were dead. Like, I mean, I try to put it as nicely as possible. And so what was that really like, too? Because, you know, it's almost like a justified kill to some degree.
Yeah, I mean, you know, do they really deserve to die? I would, if this was a non-fictional circumstance, I would say no. You know, that's not the case. Nobody deserves to die. Just, you know, I mean, there's the Hitler argument, I guess, which
What's up, Rob?
Is an extreme circumstance. These people are not Hitler, you know. But they're pretty. They do not have good morals. They do not have good moral judgment. They don't have good character. You know, they're definitely more concerned about themselves than they are other people. You know.
It's very much a question that, you know, like again, I hate to say it this way, but it tests really the morals. And it's this idea that, well, Richard has to kill, and you have the choice of killing a saint, and you have a choice of killing somebody who is good and bad, or somebody who is like 80% bad. And then, well, you know, gets into these really deep moral and philosophical questions that you have to kill somebody who you're going to kill. And it's so interesting because there's so much psychology going on and so much theory going on. And I don't know if that was the intention or if that was sort of just how the story wrote itself. But it's very interesting when you really start dealing with these complicated issues in comics. And you start saying, okay, you know, and then it's wrapped around a vampiric cat and a man who already left a war, now he has to kill. And also, though, you could tell that Richard, to some degree, probably maybe isn't thrilled to kill, but it's also this idea that he's angry enough at these stories, too, that's where it gets very interesting as well, because Richard has sort of a sadistic side. And just because he's not a war-hungry, you know, colonel anymore doesn't mean he just left either. So what was that like? Because a lot of stuff going on with him and this character.
Yeah, I think there's definitely an internal battle going on there. I knew that I wanted him to have this, you know, sort of sense of justice that, you know, he's going to champion more the little person and the downtrodden, and but he's still not like comfortable with killing people just because, you know, even if they aren't great people, he's not happy at the circumstance that he's been forced into by Fang. And without giving too much away, you know, he's very not happy at the end of issue 1 with Fang, and is trying to, you know, get away from this situation that he's in.
And then even to jump into Fang as well, because obviously, you know, Fang is a very, very small character. It just in size. Fang is obviously a large character in the book. I want to make that clear. I realized when I was saying it.
Yeah.
But
small in stature.
Yes. But Fang has an ego too. That's a good way to put it. So obviously, it's also very interesting because the way I read it, and I sort of put my own biases into it a little bit, but it's this idea that, you know, typically small, you know, animals and small creatures and small people sometimes, you know, are viewed as the underdog, and they're not viewed as powerful and having, you know, a say at the table. And it's a very interesting thing where we have a small vampiric cat now controlling a human, and you're sort of flipping, you know, I like to think that you obviously have cats, I have a dog, and well, I like to think that I'm in charge of the house with my dog. You know, my dog is not in charge, if that makes any sense.
Well, I think that most of us cat owners know that the cats are in charge, so
But I
it's
think
very realistic in that way.
yes, but
When it's dinner time, it's dinner time.
My dog would not be able to survive without me, and
Right.
it's clear that when it really comes down to, I decide when my dog wants to go for a walk. I decide when my dog eats and all that stuff. And so I think it's similar with cats to some degree as well. That obviously, as the human, in the scheme of everything, we all know we're in charge with our pets. But this sort of flips that upside its head, and really the cat is the master, and the human is the subservient one. And it's a very interesting as well. The economy sort of going of what we were speaking about before, as well as just Fang is extremely sarcastic as well. So
I think if we could hear most cats, that they would have a little sarcasm.
So what was this like? Because obviously, I mean, I've had a cat before I had my dog, and she was a hunter, and I know for a fact that if she could speak, she'd probably be sarcastic and she'd be witty, and I know exactly her personality. You know, if I was to make a comic with my cat, I know exactly how she would sound. And so I think most people understand that a cat is going to speak slightly different than a dog. And so what was that really like, capturing what Fang is and who Fang is and what Fang does? Because obviously people know their cats and animals very well, and they get very sensitive when it's not accurate.
Yeah. I mean, I have both cats and dogs, and so I kind of think of my cat Mary, who's also a black cat. When I think of Fang a little bit, Mary's not a vampire, and he's not evil, but he does want things his way, and if they're not his way, you will hear about it. You'll hear about it, you know. It's I mean, yeah, we have control over when we feed him, but if we're not feeding him when he wants to be fed, we're gonna hear about it, you know. So yeah, I mean, I pulled some of that into Fang, and I really like just, you know, some of that witty banter and sarcasm. Just really like torturing poor Richard is fun. Getting this little creature to just, you know, put him through the ringer. And he kind of plays a little bit on, like, Richard makes a comment in, I think it's in the preview, actually, on Kickstarter, in the first couple pages, where Richard's like, well, the army didn't have me, you know, feeding people to monsters, and, you know, the cat's like, well, maybe not, but, you know, you had to answer to monstrous people. And so it's kind of this, you know, he's playing on Richard's kind of internal battle there.
Yeah, and I don't want to dive too much into that. And then obviously,
don't give away the whole thing.
a monkey wrench gets thrown into this entire thing, and obviously it sort of doesn't play out in issue 1, but just to throw it out there, obviously Richard sort of takes a fancy to, you know, a woman in the town, you know, Delia Danforth, and obviously she, I guess, is the co-mayor's kids, you know, the husband and wife's kid, and she's also an eligible bachelorette, and she also might be the top one in the entire, you know, town. And so that obviously opens up a whole different, I guess, can of worms right now, because technically speaking, this book is gonna go in a bunch of different directions, where, you know, obviously there's an internal battle with, you know, Richard wants to free himself from Fang. Fang now can manipulate. There's going to be some killings, possibly people being, you know, hunted down, maybe Richard being, you know, sort of investigated, and then all that stuff. And so it's very interesting to add this in there, because it adds a different, you know, tailspin to the entire thing. And we don't see it yet being played out at the moment, but it's sort of, I think, safe to say it might be coming down in either a direct or indirect way.
Yeah, it's been hinted at, so. I know where I've got an idea. I know where it's going, so mostly. we've got the next couple ones pretty ironed out.
And so a lot of stuff is coming down the pike here, and it's very, very interesting. And I don't want to ruin too much more of it, but I do want to talk about rewards, because I do think rewards are very important. And You have an
And they're fun.
interesting way that your rewards are sort of set up. And so I think you have just, if anybody pledges anything, they get to download a way to make like an
The little
sort of,
cube. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know
I
what
got
it's called.
I made him the other day. So
I mean, I got a picture of it for
yeah.
those who could see that. And then obviously,
I made
you
a
so
everything.
anybody who basically donates $1 or more is going to get that download, and then they can print it out and pretty much do that. And
Glue
then
required.
going forward, obviously you also have, the physical print edition, and obviously that, and also with this is a bunch of stuff that's sort of thrown into there, which is the digital, zero issue, the digital issue one. And so what is the entire story with those issues? Because it's very interesting when people have issue zeros and issue ones and all that stuff. Because that's where I get confused, and other people might be confused too.
Yeah, so issue 0 was just basically a half issue, and that's been out for a couple months now for download. If you join the newsletter, it's available. So if you want to back but you don't want to wait, you can join the list and get issue 0. Or if you back, you can you'll get issue 0 in any tier from the digital $5 digital up. So that's there. So that's just kind of a way to get people into the story, get interest, get that going. And then the actual print issue is going to be 0 and 1 back like in order. So it'll be 36 pages.
So it's sort of a more along the lines of a shorter one shot issue
Yeah.
versus a traditional issue for those who are interested, in how that works. And then obviously you have a bunch of other stuff that when we get into the physical side of things, where obviously just to go through the list here, obviously when we get to cover A, it's $15, and obviously it's the physical 0-1, the digital stuff, and then there's the desktop background, there's the phone wallpaper, obviously the cube, bookmark, a welcome to Bloodsville or Bloodville. I'm not too sure how it's supposed to be
I'm
pronounced.
saying Bloodville but I didn't want to write it as blood. So.
And then obviously the stretch goals and that stuff, and then also the digital things. And so obviously, and I don't remember, is this with or without shipping being included in the U.S.?
U.S. shipping, yeah, U.S. shipping is included.
So obviously, again, I don't remember everything that's in it. A lot of stuff's coming at you in the first thing, and also I think there's some other just automatic stretch goals that have been unlocked already with some digital bundle stuff.
There's weekly, depending on when you back. You get so anybody. I mean, we're in week 2 now. Anyone who backed in week 1 got the week 1 digital pack, or they will be at the end. And then week 2 forward, like if you back now, you'll get week 2 and 3 and 4, etc. As you go on. Stretch goals. We have a social media stretch goal, which we haven't met, and I probably haven't been mentioning it nearly enough. Which is just if we get like 100 new subscribers across all of our social media channels.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because that's interesting. Because obviously I've seen a bunch of different stretch goals done. Obviously the obvious is money. Money
Right.
is the first and foremost stretch goal. But
that'll be coming as we get closer to the funding. Yeah.
But then you get into things like backer stretch goals, and then you get into things as well. I know people who just do weekly, stretch goals, where it's just like, hey, week 1, if you're back in week 1, you get, X, and week 2, you get X. I know, first 2-day, early bird unlock goals as well. I know. And then also, I've never seen social media stretch goals.
I've seen them on a couple I've actually seen them. Aspen Comics has done it. I'm like 95% sure that is where I saw it. I think they've done it.
Yeah, I know Aspen. I haven't looked at one of their Kickstarters ever because
I think they have. I know I've seen it on a board game one before too. I can't remember which board game it was though.
So, because I've never seen it, and I think it's very interesting because it's just another way how to do something. And obviously, in the world of traffic, driving traffic is very, very complicated, and understanding how to drive traffic, and I know how to do certain things in traffic, and other things are just impossible. And also, at a certain stage, a follow for follow is great, but that doesn't help overall. And there's all sorts of rules about ratioing and a variety of other things that actually affect algorithms. And I don't know enough to talk about. I know very little about those topics beyond that. But I've never seen it, so that's why I think it's so interesting. Because, and I don't know everybody's Kickstarter that's out there. Obviously, I've looked at a lot of them.
There are a lot, yeah.
I've never seen something like that. I think it's fascinating. And then I think you're primarily doing it on Twitter, from my understanding.
Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Instagram, I should use more because I know it's like really the big one for creatives. But being the writer, I find it a little bit more difficult.
It's harder for a writer on Instagram.
I do have the images now, though, of course. Now that the issue is done, I have images I can actually post. So, whereas when I was, waiting for them, it's like, oh, what do I post? I, don't want to post the same image over and over again.
And then even going further, because obviously you just don't have a cover. Hey, you have a bunch of other covers. And this is my favorite topic to talk about. And I get flack for it, and I'm okay with that. Obviously,
variants are great.
Yeah, no. I mean, I understand the whole point of variants. I understand that, for two reasons. The quick version is that people buy variants in mainstream because they're more limited and they tend to go up in value when people are speccing on them. And also in the indie world, typically a cover A might be $10. I've seen cover A's $5, and I've seen cover A's $15. But in order to fund, you need higher tiers, or you need to sell a lot of low tiers.
Yeah.
And so obviously this is a 70 print run, or it's limited to 70. I don't know if it's a 70.
It's 100 total, but I have different tiers that it's available in.
I asked this question because you never know. You never know. I've seen weird numbers on
right.
where I've seen people do like a 51 print run just to mess around. I'm thinking about doing a 251 print run just because everybody does a 250 print run. I just think it's kind of funny just to mix it up slightly. Especially if it's printed on the book, I just think it's fun. So what is the story behind this cover and really building this out and really creating a 100 print run for $30? Because obviously that's going to do a lot of different stuff in the Kickstarter.
Right. I knew that I wanted to get at least 1 to 2 variant covers, and interestingly enough, that actually drove the overall total up quite a bit. But I thought it would be worth it to get get more eyes on it, and also just, I know it's fun to have those different covers and be able to see them. And once this issue is done on Kickstarter, I'm not going to go back and create new variants for it. So it's kind of like a now or never. Do it now or there's no variants.
So that's super interesting, because if I create a comic, I hate to say this, I'm not going to go reprint old variants, but if I go into a second print run, I'm going to go create at least another variant as a second print run variant, just because, or just even if it's a color shift, and the reason why I want to do that is I want to make a distinguishing factor, and that's a playbook that I've taken out of Marvel. And in particular,
I guess I haven't really thought about a second print run yet, because that to me feels like it's probably pretty far off.
So I mean, I'm not saying I'm going to go into second print run, but, I'm going to hustle my book like crazy to comic stores. And all of a sudden, I might be in a situation where we're doing a small first print run, and then so it's like, hey, can we have more? And I got to go print, and I don't want to hurt value. So if I did it in, red, blue, and gold, the first cover, I might just change the title to be silver, green, and yellow. And then everybody's going to know that's a second print run, and it looks cool, and it's cool. And then also somebody's going to be like, oh, man, I love your book. I want to go pick this one up, too, because I've done that in comics. I have a bunch of Star Wars #1s when Marvel took it over again, and I hate to say it, but the red one is a hell of a lot cooler than the white one. I'm just saying, it's like the fourth print looks so much cooler than the first print. And honestly, I'd rather have the fourth print because it looks so much cooler than the first print. So that's just how I view it. But I do think that, And that brings up another question, because you said it brought up your entire total. And obviously, see, I can now ask these questions, and I now understand, because when I'm building my Kickstarter, by the way, everybody, is written. It's written, and it's like live. I mean, it's not live, but it's written out, and the rewards are all. And I have a pretty good idea of how much money, if everything is bought, is going to be. And I don't know if you did that, but I understand the entire value of what it is. I don't know if creators do that per se, and maybe it's just me. But
are you asking what the?
I'll ask the question.
Okay.
I'll clarify. So when you, because you said that obviously this variant brought up the total of your Kickstarter.
The total cost, yeah. So and then of course if it brings up my cost, I have to bring up the funding.
See, that's super interesting, because when I did my rewards, I went backwards. I said, how much money do I really want to raise maximum? Where I said, oh, I want to hit a goal of 9,000 or above, and then I did my rewards backwards. And maybe it's just me who does that. But then I said, okay, how many do I need of this, and I reverse engineered it. So if I ever write a comic and I have variants, I'm gonna say, look, how much are my costs, and how much do I want to make on this to either put back into the project, get an issue 2, and then that's how I go backwards. It's a very different, I think, approach than other people, and I haven't actually asked anybody this, so I could be speaking completely out of turn here. But I don't know if you.
I mean, I think they're all valid ways to do it. For me, I'm just trying to cover printing. I'm mostly trying to cover costs. There might be like a teensy bit of extra room in there, but it's very small. But my goal, I'm doing a. It's really going to be about $1,250 total print run. So where anything else comes in is through, selling those comics, having those comics, and getting the word out and going to conventions. That's really where.
See, that's the thing that I think people also don't understand, who watch and listen to this stuff, is that the Kickstarter, you might break even on the Kickstarter, but then if you have another 400 comics, then you move that out at cons, and then obviously you get the word out, and then you do better on issue 2 with the Kickstarter, and then issue 3 and issue 4, and then you
a little snowball effect, hopefully.
and then you release the trade paperback, and then obviously you're getting your name out. So for me, I guess my approach is that I view this as a business. And so I understand that I'm not trying to take a paycheck, but all the money that, if my costs are $3,000 and I raise 9, I have $6,000 now in a war chest, for lack of a better word, to then go and actually lay out infrastructure to continue the business position and actually say what I'm going to deliver. And so, and actually then continue to deliver it and put it back into the infrastructure to continue what I guess I'm doing with my podcast. And that's what happens with all my live reads and my sponsorship money and all that stuff, is that it's not a paycheck to me. It's a war chest for infrastructure. And it's very important. So I view this very differently, because this is a business. It's a fun business, but I treat it the same way I treat my eBay business. It's fun, but there is profit and P&L statements come into play. I have Excel sheets that are like a mile long, and I know exactly how much money eBay takes from me every month.
Right. So I've reached the point of needing to get somebody to help me design out a inventory cost and what's it called? Cost of goods sold and whatnot. Like, oh, we're there now, because I can't. I look at it and my head just explodes.
I do it all manually, because I don't know how to build programming. But I do it all manually. I update, and I know exactly how much things cost. I also know just manually doing it, because unfortunately a 1099K is coming, and when that comes, and I have to get into the habit of scanning my receipts. That's a different entity in of itself.
Well, I guess it depends what you use. I use I just keep my receipts, and then I just put them in my accounting software, and I categorize them. That works.
I just need to pretty much scan my receipts or
Yeah.
document them to
Well,
protect
they
them.
do have they have those accounting systems where they do it by scanning the receipts and then they enter it like in the system for you, so you don't have to do any more entry.
Also, I have massive insurance on my books, and sometimes my books take a month to get someplace. So I also have to like put them in my box and make sure, God forbid, because well, when you're spending, like $10 on insurance for a $400 book, you don't want it to go to hell. So I don't want to lose that money. So having said that, obviously this is cover C, which is obviously comes after cover B, and this one's interesting too because this is, I think, also probably a 100 print run, if I'm not mistaken. And so, what is this like to sort of keep covers B and C, I think, at this similar price point and give that choice, but also not being over the top expensive?
I didn't want to like do different tiers I didn't want to do different pricing for each variant artist unless it's like maybe like, I don't know, like if Jim Lee did a variant cover, I would be charging way more for that, for example. But otherwise, I was like, okay, everybody's getting the same cover price for my variant covers. We're going to sell them at the same price. And then there's one more where they have both of them in them.
Yeah. There's a bunch of packages that you have that obviously combine all of this. And
I would say I did price mine higher, my own cover higher.
And so obviously this is cover D.
Yeah.
And obviously, this is a little bit more pricey. It's about $5.
It is, and it's a smaller run, and so that was part of my reasoning for doing that a little bit higher was the smaller print run on it. And I think it's just, it's rare for a writer to do a cover. So that was kind of my reasoning. Without making it like double the cost or something crazy, which I don't think I would have sold any for double the cost.
And then apparently we lost me on my Facebook page, which I don't really know what's going on with StreamYard today. Apparently they were giving me a hard time, and maybe Facebook just doesn't like, something going on. Maybe something's wonky with the wires. I'm sure that I'm going to be in communication with StreamYard. But for those who are in the group watching and on YouTube, again, this will be uploaded onto my Facebook page, and I'm sure that we'll figure all that stuff out. We're still on YouTube, so we're still live recording. And then obviously, there's just a bunch of different packages that are slightly cheaper. If you want, it just covers A and B or A and C or all four of them, I think you can get. And so it's very, very cool in that regard to get that. And then also you have some other cool rewards like this, where
we have
I didn't put all five. I did not put all five. I didn't put all 6. I'm letting everybody know that here's the deal with this. You can basically get drawn into this print in one of those 5 smaller slots, and then I think that print, then is going to be somewhat distributed outward. And so very, very cool. I may or may not have an idea in my Kickstarter that's somewhat similar to this. I actually might steal your wording. I'm just letting you know.
No, I've had a couple people who I showed, and they're like, "Oh, can I use that idea?" I'm like, "Yeah, totally." So I say I'm the first person that I've seen do it, but that doesn't mean that nobody else has done it. I just haven't,
And then this is a little bit more expensive, bigger face in there, and then obviously I'm assuming here that you don't have to draw your face in this. If somebody has a cat, I'm pretty sure. I mean, are you objecting to somebody says, "Hey, I want my cat in this print instead of me"?
That would theoretically be okay. I don't know if Fang would want to eat other cats, but I guess I don't know if he would care because human vampires eat humans, so why would he care? The only thing we can't do is like, if you're wearing a cosplay of like a Disney character, we're not putting, please no cosplay of copyrighted characters.
So because I am a very, very creative person, and I tell the story where the first appearance of Hellboy was actually in Sin City, It was a ad in Sin City where it was on like one of the panels. And so I'm one of those people that I think a lot of comic creators don't understand that, you know, if you could be drawn to a book, you know, and you have a really, really iconic character, maybe you want to just sneak your character into somebody else's book if you're totally cool with it. And
yeah, if it's your character and you're willing to give us the rights to use it this one time, sure. But not Disney.
Or somebody has a logo, or somebody like, you know, obviously I have my cute little elf. You know, obviously I think people just have to get creative, and I don't have a problem, you know, putting my stuff in there because I view it as advertising. And obviously, you know, I'm more than happy to sign, you know, saying, hey, yeah, sure, you don't owe me any royalties or anything like that. You know, I'm more than happy to surrender points as long as, you know, I still maintain the rights and you can't go make it into a t-shirt, you know, as long as that's fine. You know, I'm totally cool with that. And then obviously there's also just pretty much get drawn into a party as well, which is get drawn into, you know, the comic and that stuff. And obviously being part of a party, I don't know if you're going to get killed or not. I don't know if it's hungry. I have no answers for that. So that's on everybody else. And then here's all just the covers for the most part. And then so obviously really cool stuff right there. And then, yeah, a lot of stuff's coming with this. I think it's safe to say.
It's my goal is like a 3 to 4 volumes, not issues total.
So 16.
Something around there, yeah. I think each volume will be 4 to 6 max. 4 to 6 issues max.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. And obviously there's a lot of stuff that can be played with in this. And very, very interesting. Well, what's going on with this. And, you know, it's a fun read in a lot of ways, where it's definitely more PG-13 for those who are interested. Yeah. And it's something that I think that, you know, if you're looking for something that's somewhat thought-provoking, it's thought-provoking enough, but it's not too gory because there's not much gore in this. Mm-hmm. And that I think is very important in regards to you know, comics.
We certainly could have gone that route had I wanted to.
Hey! I like gory comics. I like thought-provoking comics. You know,
I don't write a lot of like family stuff, but you know, I was like, oh, PG-13. We can do PG-13. You know, that opens up the audience a little bit more. And then rated R.
and then I want to get into some other stuff because obviously, you know, one of the problems I was trying to avoid, and I want to back out of the story before I ruin it, and one of the things that I was trying to avoid is that I wanted to launch on November 1st. So my project was completely written and ready to go and submit to Kickstarter on like the 25th. And I wanted to get going on November 1st, November 2nd, because I wanted to avoid what is known as Thanksgiving. And we're going into the holidays. No offense to all my comic creators. My money is really tight right now. I get paid on the 19th and of this month that I just started a job. And I could tell you for the next, you know, 6 weeks or so, money's tight in my world. If I back one project in the next 6 weeks, and I'm being very selective, and it's nothing personal against any creator. It's just that I got gifts to pay for, I got other things I need to take care of, and you know, it's a tough time of the year, and this is the problem I want to avoid. So, what is this like coming off of Kicktober, where everybody had a Kickstarter,
right,
and now we're going into the holiday season, running through Thanksgiving, and let's be realistic, December is going to be a nightmare.
Yeah, so I actually think somebody did say that there's still more projects on Kickstarter now than even last month. It's just I think that people,
well, we're going to talk about that
even though stuff isn't going to really be in for the holidays, people do still do some holiday shopping on Kickstarter around this time.
So even to talk about that as well, because this is the problem I wanted to avoid completely, is that, and my Kickstarter, you know, I mean, I'm obviously selling live reads, I'm selling, you know, ad space, and I'm selling other things that are relevant to a podcast. And my rewards might not be needed in anybody's life till June. And that's that's why my project is somewhat a little bit different, because you might have to think about your problem today versus June. And if I have 50 people who back, and I'm letting everybody give a fair warning, I mean, I'm going to hold you to the same standard. If you want a live read, and the people who back get first dibs, and then if you want to cut the line, well, you're going to have to match what they pledged, and you don't get any of the fun stuff that I'm throwing in there. So, you know, that's just a fair warning to everybody, because that's the only fair way how to do it. But as you stated, and I agree, there are more projects on Kickstarter than there's ever been before. And obviously, we were speaking before, and I'm not going to tell what we were speaking about, but I don't want to be on Kickstarter all that much longer. I think it's what it's supposed to do is kickstart you. And people are now utilizing it as a business, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's the antithesis of what Kickstarter is supposed to be. And it raises the question where at some point this train is going to go off the cliff. At some point it's coming. And I'm a financial guy. I'm very concerned. I'll give a little insight into my thoughts here. Warren Buffett has $150 billion in free cash sitting, waiting for something to occur. And it's either he's gone into the deep end, or he's been around so long that he knows something's going to come and everything is going to go on sale and something catastrophic is going to happen. So it's one of the two, and I think it's the latter. And that affects Kickstarter because at some point this is not going to be sustainable.
Yeah, I mean, unless something like that happens, even when we have economic downturns, people still do buy, what you call it?
Items, goods, digital?
Yeah, I mean, stuff that's not really needed. Entertainment
comfort
stuff. Yeah,
food,
exactly.
Comfort food, you know, that stuff?
Yeah. They will still try to buy entertainment and those sort of items. It will go down. It won't be as high as many people buying, but people will still buy those items because they bring some value to their life. I do think that Kickstarter is going to need to bring in some more users. I don't know that it's going to reach like a saturation point where, you know, nobody new can come and sell on their platform. I don't think that that's the case, but I think that they are going to need to bring in more eyes, more people, more backers. And I mean, that's really in their own interest because they want things to fund. So they need to, you know, be doing that as more creators get on the platform if they want to keep it going.
Yeah, I think that definitely that's going to be a problem for Kickstarter. And I mean, the way I view it is that I just think that there's so many projects and now money's getting tight. And there's a million reasons why. Obviously, November, December is always tough. And then also government, you know, money is drying up. You know, subsidies are drying up.
Student loans starting again.
Not what it's going to be exactly. And, you know, nobody exactly knows where things are going, as well as, you know what it is? Bars are open now, movies are back opening. And also that's the other thing too, is that it's not even the fact that, let's say everybody hasn't lost their job or their wages even have gone up. There's more places to now spend your money at.
Right. More competition in a way.
So it used to be that, you know, the bar hasn't been open for, you know, 9 months. And now the bar is back open and you are a bar guy and you like comics. Well, congratulations. You know, you're now in a weird position where you were spending $100 a month on comics and now you're spending only $50, not because you don't like comics, because the other $50 is going to the bar, which is what you enjoy. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that now, as you say, more competition, and, you know, it's going to be very interesting. And that kind of leads me into my next point, is that where do you think cons are going? Because obviously, you know, New York Comic Con Light went well, from my understanding, but I don't know how people did economically there. And I don't know what the costs were to go to that con. I don't know what the ROI was. And I don't know, you know, if people say, look, you know, and also big companies were not there. I don't think Marvel, DC, Midtown Comics wasn't there. And those are big stables. And so I don't really know where things go. And I know from my end, and this is the first time I'm making money in this entire industry and in podcasting, is the last 12 weeks. And so for me, I don't want to go back because I wasn't making money before. And I think I'm going to make a hell of a lot more money next year than I'm making this year. And so I don't want to go back. And again, though, I don't have a comic. And also I have a different philosophy than other people, where I just have a different business model that I think I can slay dragons, and I think I could sell a lot of your books, and I think I can sell everybody's book, and I think I can actually match people's Kickstarter numbers and sell their books after Kickstarter and not through Indiegogo, through ClickFunnels. I really believe I can do it, and I know exactly how to do it too. And so that's what I really believe at this point. And I guess I'm a digital pivot guy. That's a long soliloquy right there for me.
So I've never sold at a con yet, so it's kind of a hard question for me to answer. I've been to cons, of course. I had tickets for WonderCon right before, the pandemic happened. So. Yeah, I was gonna go for my birthday, but oh well.
Life happens. Life happens. I was supposed to do a Hatsune Miku concert for my birthday like 2 years ago. And that I was thrilled that it got canceled though, because I did not want to go in COVID.
Oh, right, yeah.
They didn't cancel it. They rescheduled it and they canceled it 6 hours before. I'm like, what's going on here? Like, how do you not cancel this? Like, am I going? Am I not going?
I think the ones that were rescheduled though, most of those you can get your money back on if you're like,
I got my money back a long time ago. Thank God. But like, I was like, am I going to be hopping in an Uber in like 5 minutes? Like it was not a pleasant experience.
Yeah.
It was not a very Pop Idol camera digital experience friendly situation, to say the least. But I digress. And obviously, that's what that was. And so even going further into this, because obviously there's a lot of stuff going on with this project. And I want to keep it under an hour so I could actually restream it out onto Facebook appropriately. That's why I'm rushing here. Because I can technically do that. And hopefully Facebook and my Facebook group and YouTube won't mind me reshooting it out. And I could actually reshoot it out on Twitch too, which is super cool. And so that's why we're keeping it under an hour. We have like 7 minutes to do it. Okay. So in that realm, you have 6.5 minutes now to self-promote yourself. So where can people find you, find the book, find the project? Obviously I have stuff up in the link. I'm going to include it in the restream for those who are interested. And obviously I want this thing to fund.
I'm excited. I looked at KickTrack and I'm looking at their high projection. I'm like, that feels a little high, but that would be awesome if we make the high. And looking at their projections, I think we're good. I would really love to make like a couple of stretch goals. That would be awesome. I've actually I priced stretch goals out for like way more than I'm like, there's no way, but I would love to make a couple of stretch goals. I've got so many cute little stickers that I'm working on getting designed with Fang. And I mean, Fang's really the star of the show. Let's be real. So it would be fun to get those going.
So where can people find the book? Where can they follow you on Twitter? Where can they obviously support what you do? Because you do some stuff outside of this project, and this is your first, and all that jazz.
Yeah. Headless Gnomes is my website. Headlessgnomes.com is my website. I've got a couple of other little downloads you can opt in for there. As well, once the issue is actually printed and we're ready to start selling the extras, that's where it'll be at that point. But for right now, fangsandfoulplay.com goes to the Kickstarter. And there's a link for issue 0 right in the Kickstarter. And then of course you can back issue 0 and 1 on the Kickstarter, or if you want to just do $1, get that cute little paper cube toy on there. So which I think is great for $1. You still get something to do, something for that.
Yeah, I need to find $1 reward that's like nothing, but Kickstarter will probably flag it on me. So I'm expecting it. There's going to be so many metal cards of their responses to me, and I don't know if it's legal or not, but I'll find a way around it. But I digress right there. you and me both are now going to get in trouble, so you're welcome. Now, having said all that, and I'm going to do this as quickly as I possibly can, obviously support indie. What that means is backing people's Kickstarters, obviously following them on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, actually checking out what they're doing, signing up for their email list, because you can actually get this project in your email list for issue 0, and then sort of see if you like it, and that's super important, and you don't have to wait for this thing to fund, and you can actually get it in your hands and enjoy it, and then say, oh man, this is really good, I would like to back it. So obviously you can sort of try it before you buy. And even going further beyond that, as I was stating, following on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook pages, all that stuff, actually commenting and sharing, it goes a long way. And if you do decide to back it, actually tweet out that you backed it, because it will be super helpful, because it's also a vote of confidence in a lot of ways. And it lets people know that, hey, I backed this, you should back it too. I'm also an indie content creator. I offer live reads, guest spots, all that stuff. You can buy a live read from me. I have my link up there above. I appreciate all support. I hopefully will have my Kickstarter up and running in the dreaded winter of December, and we will break it, and we will survive the winter together if I get it up in December. Otherwise, I may or may not do it in January and then launch season 3 in February, which is what I'm thinking. But hopefully this will be whatever, or we'll do something fun on Thanksgiving. And who knows, maybe I'll launch on Thanksgiving and have a really cool time with that. So
Black Friday.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. I think it could be really cool, actually, to launch on Thanksgiving and beat the odds and actually use every marketing tactic I have. But having said all that, I'm going to give you the final word, because you got like 3.5 minutes to do it.
Okay. I didn't leave my social. My social is headlessgnomes.com, and if we get to 100, you have to be a backer to get the story. You can help us get to the story, the social media stretch goal, by following on social media, but you do have to back at any tier level to get the short story once we reach that social media stretch goal. And let's see. Well, let me say it my favorite thing about Fangs and Foul Play that I think I've heard multiple times is a lot of people saying, yeah, Fang is just like my cat. So if you're a cat person, this could be for you.
Yeah, if you
like
cats, you should back this. And I thoroughly enjoyed the book, for those who are interested in. So obviously, it's a very enjoyable book. It also leaves off on a cliffhanger, and I think that a bunch of people will enjoy it. And I recommend that you definitely check out that issue 0 and then see where it's going, and then make your determinations on that. Apparently, Facebook does not like me today, but we're going to be restreaming this hopefully on Facebook in my Facebook group for those to check it out. And I appreciate you coming on, and I'm sorry that it's slightly rushed. Okay. Facebook and StreamYard are just having an issue, but we are in my Facebook group, and for those who might have missed this, obviously, it's there. So I appreciate it, and I believe that is a wrap.
Bye, everyone.